Hey, what's up, YouTube? Sorry about the cheap backdrop I'm using here. I'm just using one of my little magazines from Loot Crate. I no longer subscribe to Loot Crate, but I did get this book inside Loot Crate. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on online right now about how The Walking Dead is going to turn out. And here's the thing for me is like, regardless if Carl dies or lives, I want the show to be good. So there's a bunch of videos out there, and to tell you, frankly, to tell you the truth, is like I would rather talk to people than actually make this video. I haven't been able to talk to a lot of people because a lot of people at my job and at work have not been watching the show and they're behind. And I just haven't been around a lot of people that really are watching The Walking Dead. A lot of people, a lot of my friends, really early in the seasons of The Walking Dead, they stopped watching it. And I understand. People get busy. Sometimes people have kids. They don't really want them watching the show, and they just really lose track of the show and they lose love for the show. But for me, I still enjoy the show. And have some of the season drags? Yes. Has there been flaws in the show? Yes. But for the most part, I think it's an amazing show, and it's real. I really believe the show is amazing because they were able to actually get the show to put together. They were actually able to get the show put off the ground. And all the characters that, resemble the comic book characters and all that stuff, I really think it's amazing. So, a while back when I went to Comic Con up in Denver, actually got a picture with Carol, and she was really nice. But one of the things that really kills me about fans and stuff is that they really think that the actors really have control of how the show moves along. And they don't. They just really play a part in a big picture. So I try to give these people their respect and and not freak out. But there's a lot of people right now online freaking out about how the show is going. So for me, I'm behind on the actual graphic novels. And I'm also somewhat behind on the stories, the actual written books like Rise of the Governor and all that, because the last book I listened to, it was like Search and Destroy. I I don't know, that one made me lose interest a little bit, and then I picked it back up and finished it. I listened to it on Audible, and if you have a chance, if you don't feel like reading all the books, definitely go to Audible and check them out. But here's the thing: a lot right now, people are talking about signing petitions to bring Carl back and all this different stuff, and I don't think that's necessarily the thing to do, because the thing about this show is that the show has done a good job of making you actually care when characters die. So that's a good thing. How many horror movies have you watched and just seen people get slaughtered and you feel absolutely nothing? At least this show has generated a lot of love for these characters, when they pass away, when they're missing, whatever. So that's a good thing about the show. So, with Carl's current situation and the new season hasn't started yet, the show actually, if he's going to die or whatever. But I hope they don't change the storyline, because then it's going to go against everything that the written laws of the story. If you get bit, you turn. And if they just start doing all this stuff where the story really doesn't start making it sense, it's going to be like it's going to be trash. So one thing people have mentioned, and other people out here on YouTube that do a way better job of making videos than me, is that they have mentioned, well, what if a whisper bit Carl? Well, I don't really agree with that theory, because if I don't, they could have pulled it off, but the direction of the way it was made and everything, to me, that's really not going to fit unless they show some more backstory stuff and some other stuff that happened, off camera that they're going to reveal. But that's not really going to make a whole lot of sense. If I say, for the most part, if they did encounter the whispers would have stood back, let the zombies, have their way with, Carl and Sadiq, and and if they then they came to them, then they probably pulled out a knife or they would pull out a knife or something, and they would have tried to stab Carl. So I don't really agree with that whispers theory. Um, a lot of people are blaming Scott Gimple, but I don't really understand why Scott Gimple would just sabotage this show. I kind of understand if a character is leaving, but to me, I don't know. Other shows have done stuff where characters have left and they fill that character in. I mean, they did an amazing job of getting Chandler Riggs because he looks like Carl. But I'd say if he was leaving for other reasons to go to college and all the stuff that people are saying, they would have just got another actor. They've done it on Game of Thrones. Who was that guy that was Khaleesi's? That was in love with Khaleesi. They got another guy to fill him in, and the show is still carrying on strong. And they didn't, and the story is not weak. And they've done a good job. So I necessarily don't see, if just because Carl's leaving for college or whatever, if he got fired or whatever, I see the smart move would still be to get another fill in for the person. Now, one of the ways that they could have, even if they're negotiating with deals or whatever, they could have made Carl disappear for a while. They could have had Carl get captured by the Whispers, or something, or, they discover the Whispers. They could have done a lot of things, but this whole thing about a Whisper biting Carl, I don't agree with. Um, to, with, I don't want to say this, but with the written book, the comic books, there's such a wealth of storylines that they can apply for the show and still make them unique. It's just like I don't know why they would just start to trash the show. And also with expanding this universe or the Walking Dead universe with Fear of the Walking Dead, there's just so much stuff they can do. So I don't see why, I don't really understand any reasoning behind all of a sudden just making weak storylines and doing a lot of stuff and just one person dictating what's going to happen in the show. And a lot of people, they're talking about this petition, Scott is fire Scott Gimple, but what's Robert Kirkman saying? Is Robert Kirkman personally saying, hey, this is going against what I wanted, what I intended for my story or whatever? And I know it happens. I mean, I hear a lot of times, artists do not have free reign to create the products and storylines they want to, and it's things are governed by Hollywood, all these different things, but this is kind of different. So I think for me, I mean, I would think that Robert Kirkman wants to expand this universe and continue to tell good stories. And also, too, is that, okay, we take these deaths of Glenn and Carl really heartfelt, but I took a lot of deaths in the comic book as heartfelt. And I don't want to give away spoilers, but there's a lot of people that died in the comic books. I mean, you know, children to that matter, and now is really heartfelt. But now, a lot of people were just, online, people were upset and saying, oh, they should do this and do this. But I think it's a good thing if Carl does die, but they need to advance the storyline and start introducing a lot of other characters that we know and love, and giving characters a reason to fight for. So I just really, I mean, like I said, I really would rather talk to people face to face about this. And I'm not trying to get in an argument here online, and I'm not trying to, prove my opinion and everyone else is wrong. But to me, I still want to be able to see a great story on television. And I love The Walking Dead because it gives me like, it's like I don't watch sports or anything, but I get together with friends and I watch the show. I mean, it's a gathering, it's a get together, it's a good experience. And after the show is over, we get to talk about it and we get to do and just and really enjoy a great show. I mean, I would have never thought that television would have been this great. I mean, there was great shows back in the day, but to now there's a lot of really good shows, and like I said, and I don't see the point of sabotaging this whole story now and letting everything go down the drain. But there has been flaws. There's a lot of times where characters did die on the show and I didn't like the way they went out. But at least it was heartfelt, and like I said, after they were gone, you did miss those characters, and it wasn't just really thrown together. A lot, some of the death scenes were they seemed genuine. The only thing I didn't like was, and one thing I think they really mess up on the show a lot of times is, remember back in the first season, second season, or whatever, when Carol's daughter got separated from the group. They really should have wrote that where there was a horde of walkers, because really didn't make sense with Rick separating from Carol's daughter with that few of zombies. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if I had like someone's kid by me and there's only like three or four walkers, I'm going to dispatch those walkers and keep that kid close by. That really didn't make sense. So there's definitely a problem with the writing on that one. And then sometimes, I see that a lot in the show, is that to me, the amount of walkers will definitely make it where it forces people's hand to react to a situation a certain way. Lately on the show, it's really been character focused. It's really been the battle between, Negan's men and Rick's men and stuff, and they really haven't really focused on the horde of zombies that are waiting out there. These people in the show, when they're having this all-out war, they're shooting plenty of guns. There's all these explosions. That stuff would attract walkers, and I don't understand why they have not shown that in the show. And also, too, is they could have introduced the walker. I mean, could have introduced the whispers also by this whole mad dash to get weapons. And if they would have ran to, but the whispers, I wouldn't really think would have a bunch of firearms. I think they're more constituted as slow, or slow stealthy killers versus firing a bunch of guns. So there's just some stuff. I mean, that to me is just like in the show that it's still a good show, but they could have done a better job of portraying it. But I'm no director. I mean, what the cast and crew and everyone has done, I cannot discredit what they do. This is amazing that they have put together something this great. And like I said, hopefully it doesn't start going downhill. And a lot of people, they say ratings are going down and all this different stuff, but ratings, I believe, have gone down because the drama between the people has become somewhat stagnant. And in order to, stop some of that stagnation, has to happen by introducing new threats, new heroes, new groups, and all kinds of stuff. So, and as far as, okay, so let's say, they say, who's going to take up the torch if Carl dies? Well, I really thought not just Judith. I really thought of Enan, and I really thought of Maggie, really doing a lot of stuff. But I don't really, the introduction of the heapsters, the trash people, or what they want to call them, they got to do something with that. They got to advance that storyline. They got to do something different, with them. I really thought for a while that the heapsters, or whatever you want to call them, or what do they call it? Yeah, heapsters. I almost said hipsters. But I really thought they were going to evolve into the Whisperers. And that other group, the Wolves, and then also too is like, some groups they've introduced and they never showed again. The Vatos, the cops. I mean, I really wish, like, in that, when Rick and them were trying to get these weapons and stuff, I really wish they said, hey, we got to reach out to the cops. But I know that where the cops are way back in Alexandria or somewhere, or in Atlanta or somewhere far away, or the Vatos. I mean, but there's a lot of stuff, like I said, to me, hopefully they can pull it off. And everybody, I don't know, there's a lot of people, I guess people are not reading the comic books because people are like, oh, this doesn't follow the comic book and stuff. But since the show started in the beginning, there has been variations from the comic book. And, and I was cool with it. I mean, and even the written book. Now, if you get a chance, like I said, check out, even if the show falls off and, everyone is just like, man, the show has just turned into utter garbage, go back and check out the comic book and also read the books. The books are amazing. And it goes from a different storyline, and then I really hope, I mean, I wasn't hooked. The Fear of the Walking Dead, I don't know, man. For me personally, I need to get back into it, but it didn't have that same staying power as The Walking Dead. But if Morgan, now I hear, rumor that Morgan is going to go, act on that show. I hope they expand the universe. I mean, I hope they really, like I said, they introduce characters, that we know and love. I hope they introduce storylines that we love. But I don't want, like I said, I don't want a bunch of stupid stuff happening just to please fans. And, all of a sudden, hey, this person's back from the dead. And, it's just like, okay, come on now. Or, oh, no, now bites are not lethal and, all this stuff. Because here's one of the things that they could do, I thought about, is that just to give everybody hope. But if they did actually get a hold of, because I keep hearing something about a helicopter, but let's say, for instance, if Rick got a hold of someone that flew that helicopter, and the guy just told Rick, is like, hey, I can get your son to safety, and I can save your son, and they just took him off in a helicopter, I'd be okay with that, because I don't know, in the book storyline, there's kind of rumor about a cure. You have to check it out. It's in Seek and Destroy, but there's kind of a rumor of a cure. So if they, tie that in, whatever. But I just don't want them doing something stupid. I mean, like I said, is I don't really agree with the whole the whisper thing, and not saying it's stupid, but like I said, I just don't see that. If they ran it, I don't know. It just doesn't. That whole theory just doesn't fit right with me. But if it was written well, it could be done if it was written well. But right off the bat, it really doesn't. Doesn't sit well with me. Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. Like I said, I'd rather talk to people. Really, the majority of people on YouTube here, I really hate leaving comments because sometimes comments can be taken the wrong way, and sometimes people are just trying to be funny, and then everyone gets in this heated argument. But I would really like to sit down and talk to some people, fans of the show, and talk about The Walking Dead, and talk about the storyline and how things could go. And hopefully, yeah, like I said, hopefully for the most part, don't waste all these people's time and careers and all these actors' careers. Still make the show worthwhile, and make it, regardless of a tragic outcome, introduce new characters, have good stories, have some good heroes, have some good villains, and keep it moving. Peace out.